Well, Coach Lorenzo he's a legend at Penn State, a legendary coach for a lot of great reasons. He really just represents everything that we celebrate in the sport: hard work, humility, straightforward, just tough, hard-nosed. When I took the job at Penn State, he was the president of the Nittany Wrestling Club, very involved, and it meant a great deal to have his support as I took the job here. It was very clear how much respect that he has in the community, in the state, in this part of the country, in the sport of wrestling.
I was born and raised on a dairy farm in northwestern New Jersey. My parents were hard-working people. They had the right values and really were concerned about their fellow man, and they passed that on to my sister and brother and myself. Well, I really got involved in wrestling back in 6th grade. A couple of my friends were going out for it, and my uncles had wrestled, and my brother wrestled, and so I tried that, and I also loved baseball. Baseball was probably my first love back then. But wrestling became my sport. A day doesn't go by that I'm not thinking wrestling, reading wrestling, or just enjoying it. To be honest with you, in high school, I was a little guy. I wrestled, my sophomore year, I wrestled 105. My junior year, I wrestled 112 or 115 in New Jersey. And in my senior year, I grew up to 140 and was a runner-up in the States. I lost in overtime. You worked hard, you usually got results. My uncle was a captain of the Penn State wrestling team and graduated in 1933. And he was very influential in getting me to come to Penn State. I majored in dairy science, I say cows, and my master's in dairy management. And my brother actually was 2.5 years older than me, and he stayed home on our farm, and I got a chance to go to college. So his sacrifice, really, I benefited by it a lot, and I never can thank him for that. My career at Penn State started as I was a walk-on. I had wrestled 140 in the state of New Jersey in March. My parents bought me a suit for the senior picture. And by the time August came around, I was 180 some pounds, and the suit went up to about my elbows. I was an Eastern runner-up. I was in 4th place in the EIWA. I was 2nd place in the EIWA, and then 1st in the EIWA at 190. The finish I think of the most is when I lost in the national semifinals my senior year. But I think it really humbled me and made me a better coach, a more receptive coach to difference and the uniqueness of people.
He set the example for all of his teammates with tremendously high standards, tremendous ethics, and he was someone that everybody else wanted to follow.
Coach Cole was probably the most influential person to me. He was like a second father, and he was so technically advanced, it was unbelievable. And I just, any word he said, I listened to it like I was the only one he was coaching. I was working on the farm in the summer, and I got a call from George Edwards, who at that time was the assistant coach at Penn State and my coach. And he had just taken the job at Virginia, and he said, Rich, you're the new assistant coach at Penn State. And I said, what are you talking about, George? I didn't apply for anything. I didn't apply. He said, no. He said, Coach Cole and I got together, and we think you'll make a great assistant coach. I wasn't so sure I was going to like being a teacher or a coach. I had never dreamt one day of doing that. But after 2 weeks at Penn State teaching classes and getting involved with the kids in classes and then the wrestling team and the guys coming back and all, it just was like God opened up and said, this is what you want to do with your life, and hopefully you use it in a smart fashion, which I hope I did.
Richie had a vision for Penn State wrestling, and it wasn't about him. It was never about him. It was never even about Penn State. It was about the people that made up the program and what they stood for, and not just at that time, but their life.
We had years where we had 7 All-Americans, 8 All-Americans.
It wasn't so much about the X's and O's, and he was great with technique, but it was more about as a person and about that caring attitude. He was always there for you. And as a coach and a colleague, basically, you coached with him.
In the long run, in the end, we're going to have respect Respect is so important, but it's something you got to earn. It just isn't granted to you because you're 60 or 50 or 30 or you're the best wrestler and all. It's something that you have to work on and perfect. I try to make it be a lesson for life. Wrestling is one of the greatest sports ever found or made or designed that really brings you right back to what we experience every day in our lives. I've always felt Penn State was a gold mine, and right now we have the guy who really minding that gold mine. Yeah, I'm so happy about wrestling at Penn State. It just tickles me.
To have his support made all the difference and has made all the difference in the world to myself, but just the Penn State wrestling program in general.
My wife Cindy, she's my #1 person in my life. She's been my #1 supporter. And then I had 2 children, Michael, who is 30 years old, and he's a state policeman, Pennsylvania state policeman. And my daughter Annie, who is 28 years old, and she's a first grade teacher in elementary school. Well, being inducted into the Hall of Fame is just a great honor, and it's the highest honor that you're able to achieve on a national basis. And it's an honor that humbles me, and I want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who made that possible and helped me earn that honor.
Rich Lorenzo is an incredible human being who sacrificed his own life to make Penn State and Penn State wrestling much better during his tenure there.